Hi, my name is Michael Bargury. I'm the CTO at Zenity, and I'm joined by Ory Segal, who's the CTO for Prisma Cloud.
Hello. You know what scares me now, thinking about it? That we're going to go through the same path or process of how we get to AI security, like we've done with maybe all the recent hypes, which means people will go for the easy installation, visibility only kind of security, and think that what they're doing security. So all the startups that do AI security will start by offering you, okay, visibility first. Let's start by telling you what you have, what kind of AI models are you using, what's the data, what kind of access permissions, and that's where it will stop. And so let's say from today to maybe 2 years from now, instead of investing in securing those applications while threat modeling the risks related to the AI layer, people are going to spend money on just visibility. Yet the attackers are right now sitting and developing their attack vectors, and they're not waiting for that. So it will be a pity to see that the next set of AI security startups are going to mostly concentrate on visibility, and that customers are going to be spending their money there instead of doing something else, which we haven't defined yet.
Yeah, I think we're already there. So if you talk to enterprise customers that are worried about AI security now, which typically means there's an architect somewhere that's thinking about like, how do we apply AI? How do we apply it for us? How do we protect against it? I think mostly with enterprise AI, like your Copilots type of apps, people are mostly worried about sensitive data leakage. So you ask AI, well, I don't know, what's the salary of the CEO, and it replies back. This is essentially not an AI problem. It's a search problem, right? You could have asked a question in the search bar. It would give you that response. Actually, most of those copilots are actually built on top of this search. So people are focused on this because AI is making it, you could argue it makes it easier to access that information, but it also just like it raises that concern. My personal belief is that this is really not the most interesting aspect of it. This is also kind of the fruit of our research. So I think there are two other major avenues of real security risk that are important for these copilots, and we should focus on more. One is data poisoning and data integrity. Every piece of data you give this AI, and you better give it data because otherwise it's not important. It won't help you. It's a path for indirect prompt injection, which is just a fancy word for I'm going to take over your conversation with the AI and I'm gonna make it say whatever I want it to say. Like it's the equivalent of RCE in the AI world for that conversation. So I think that's a major risk, because once ChatGPT can talk to your Google Docs or Microsoft with your email, it's very easy to send you an email with instructions. Like it's just very, very, very easy. And so that's one thing. And I think the other thing is the plugin ecosystem. Once you give these things the ability to act on your behalf, that's when things go wild, because every conversation ends up with traces of things it left behind. And how do you keep with the pace of AI to monitor for what these things are doing on your behalf? So I recently read the State of Cloud Security report by
Good for you.
Prisma.
Good for you.
Yeah, it was interesting. One of the things that really popped for me was the fact that it says that most respondents say that AI security is a major thing for them, like on their list for cloud security for 2024. And like, is this really the top of mind that cloud security professionals, practitioners need to be focused on?
First of all, if the report says it is, by all means, yes, it is, of course. But No, I think it really depends on who was the target of the survey. Like what were the titles that, if you're talking to Fortune 500 CISOs, I'm pretty sure that they're almost required to say that AI security is top of mind for them today, because they are more forward thinking. They schmooze around in conferences. They understand, what's hyped now and what's interesting and what they need to think about that's going to happen. But if you go down to DevOps and, AppSec folks that are in the trenches, I'm not really sure that that's the answer you will hear. These are people that are still probably dealing with the top of mind that their CISO had maybe 5 years ago. So container security, cloud security, my CI/CD pipeline security, software supply chain. So in that sense, I think maybe in CISO cocktail parties, that's top of mind. And if you ask them, but I'm not sure if for the Sec DevOps teams, that's really today's top of mind.
Where do you think AI is should be top of mind right now? So where are we going to see the most impact out of AI, like in the near term?
So there's the obvious. Okay, AI helps me do my work. I'm a developer, or like for me, I use ChatGPT, or I started now with Claude AI. I use it for everything. It shortens the time that I need to do for technical stuff, not for writing. I'm not using the LLM side of things to polish emails or something like that. Like I would use Claude AI to kickstart a code project that I need to do. Many times I need to start thinking about, okay, what Python packages I need and how do I do that? I don't need to do that anymore. It takes me five minutes to initiate, to kickstart the project, and that's a great time saver. But I'm less worried about those kinds of I think I'm jumping ahead talking about security here, but I think the impact there on developers is tremendous. You're going to have developers being much more effective and time efficient in that sense, and productive. But so we touched upon it a bit earlier, but the low code part and the citizen developers and the business applications, I think that's where we'll see this giving amazing boost, amazing and terrifying at the same time, because now you have people that didn't know how to code before. They're very business goal oriented. They have a task to do. They need to do some kind of SEO. They need to do some marketing campaign or something. You gave them the tools. It was like giving them Lego pieces and allowing them to build the kind of system that they needed, or the application that they needed. Now you spice it up a little bit with the AI, and even make it even more stupid in that sense, like the building part. So you don't even need to know what are the building blocks that you need. You can say, okay, I'm using that system for customer relation management. I'm using that. I have Twitter. What can I build with it that will help me to be more effective in my campaign? And so that really puts it's an amazing boost for people who don't know how to code. Now they even don't have to think it through in that sense. It's what can I build with that? Not, okay, I need to build, how do I build? It's, here are the things that I have. What can I do with this to do something?
I think you're absolutely right. Like one of the examples I really like is I saw on a Microsoft demo. They take a financial application, like an internal financial application, and they build a Copilot Studio bot that can access that financial application, ask questions, perform operations. They give it a nice little instruction, and like in really 3 minutes, you have a full-on bot that is like a ChatGPT equivalent that can also do whatever it wants with your financial system. And then they give it out to employees, and that's the kind of, like, you don't even, in that process, you don't even think about how it's going to do it. like which operations it's going to use out of the ones that you gave it. You just like you gave it everything it needs and let it decide for itself.
Like I'm now, as you're talking, I'm thinking about, okay, here's my business data. Find me places where I can be more efficient and maybe, reduce costs and build the app to do that. So you don't even get to the point where, okay, you understand what the problem is. Now help me to build it. It's just find the thing and build the thing. And now we're talking agents that can do things. What could go wrong, right?
Yeah, and this is the reality. Like Microsoft Build, they announced that Copilot Studio, which is a part of Microsoft Copilot, has a thing they called agent capabilities, which builds something that looks exactly like a no-code automation on the fly or during the conversation. So you give it a bunch of operations that can perform, and it will compose those operations however it fits during the conversation with you. So it creates an app just for you, runs that app one time, and then discards of it. Like, how do you even begin?
Yeah, good luck trying to threat model that. Yeah, interesting.
One of the I'm taking you to a different direction. So, about I think a year and a bit less than a year, you wrote something on Twitter that I found interesting. So
I take no responsibility for what I put out on Twitter.
Yeah, that's fine. You can deny it, but you said it was a paraphrase of John Lambert's saying, well-known saying. You said defenders think sophisticated, attackers think low-hanging fruits, therefore attackers win.
Mm-hmm.
What did you mean by
that? That's the essence of every, I think, Israeli cybersecurity company that's coming up with an idea of a solution. We can talk about that, but ask your question. Yes.
Why the paraphrase? What were you trying to say that's different from what John said?
So from time to time, like I said, I get frustrated with seeing how people, how startup companies and cybersecurity users, consumers, approach a problem. Like runtime modeling. I'll give you an example, of course. Runtime modeling of container behavior was a normal thing that people talked about in the last few years, right? How do you secure containers? Yeah, you scan the code, and you have a runtime model that models the good behavior of the container, and then enforces that good behavior, right?
Mm-hmm.
Sounds legitimate, right? Have you ever seen model something for positive security that's easy to work with, to maintain?
We've tried application whitelisting many times.
Exactly. And I've seen that with WAFs as well, with web app firewalls. So you had all of those impervas, and they, will model the traffic. And then you had a project mod security that had negative security signatures. And I believe, and I've proved that before, that from an accuracy perspective, if you measure it scientifically, you get probably the same kind of security. If you send, traffic, malicious traffic, it will block the exact, the attacks, and you will have a good false positive, false negative, not less than the super sophisticated learning web app firewall. So that really bothers me that. From two perspectives. One, attackers, at the end of the day, they go for the low-hanging fruit. Yes, you have the nation-state attackers, and you can say that today any attacker has access to nation-state level tools and techniques. So you have those, and that's something else that you need to deal with. But if you look at malicious traffic on the internet today, the majority of it, or the majority of breaches, are not that sophisticated. They are going for the low-hanging fruit. You forgot a software package, you left the port open, you have SQL injection, which you mentioned earlier. Come on, 20 years after we found that one out, we still have that. Why do I need to do ROP chaining and all sorts of complicated attacks when you have an open admin panel with admin as the username and password, right? So attackers, they go for the low-hanging fruit, and maybe CISOs and us cybersecurity experts, we tend to go for the more interesting, sophisticated solutions that capture the more sophisticated use cases. But I think that's where we're constantly sinning. And new companies in cybersecurity, they usually um, come up with the more, and think about, okay, how do I make my product more sexy and more, how do I generate hype about it? I want something really cool in there. I need the intellectual property. I need it to be defensible. I need, the technology to be, I need to build a moat, a technological moat around my product. So I'm not going to go for the simple stuff, right? I'm going to build the most sophisticated thing that none of my competitors are going to be able to copy. And at the end of the day, I'm not even sure if I'm pretty certain that doesn't solve the problem, the day-to-day breaches problem that we see and hear, or else SQL injection would be solved already. Open S3 buckets. Come on, you don't need AI or sophisticated modeling to solve the S3 bucket, which today, the publicly open bucket problem, which today is, I think, the number one probably attack vector that attackers do.
So how do we move forward? I mean, it's clear that in the last 20 years, so much money has been spent on cybersecurity, and cybersecurity as an industry has grown significantly. You could argue that customers are not more secure. Well, at least...
Be careful where you're going with this.
I mean, I think the question is...
You're saying we're spending a lot of money and nothing improves.
I'm saying, how do we spend that money wisely in a way? Because the budgets are growing because security is becoming more important to the heart of every business. And I'm saying, how do we do it efficiently? How do we use the visibility that security now has that's far better than it has been in the boards of enterprises and the budgets and the smart minds that are working on this everywhere? How do we align ourselves to actually make an impact?
I think we need to go back to the drawing board in that sense, and maybe that I'm referencing myself from a few minutes ago. We need to understand what it is that we are doing and how do we secure it, and not pay attention to the hypes and the hype cycles. So you're building applications, that's fine. You're building applications that use containers. Okay, that introduces a level of certain nuances and complexity to the threat model and to your AppSec program. Hopefully you have one. You're building applications that interact with your organizational systems and crown jewels. There's AI in the mix. You're building agents. You're using agents. You're building whatever with AI. Add that to your threat models, but threat model your application. Think about this as an AppSec program, AppSec problem, and build a program. And that program needs to put attention on AI, on citizen developers, on business applications. Don't think that AppSec is just for those apps that you write the code from A to Z. Those are apps and those are apps, and if you ask me, I think that your business apps are even more sensitive than the other ones. So I think going back to the understanding or to the basics of AppSec, building a program, making sure that you do AppSec through the entire app life cycle, and not getting defocused because of one hype or another.
I also think I like the application of the AppSec mindset to everything, because we are used to a lot in security is driven by incidents, and in an incident, you can get a lot done, but it's very difficult to take a step back and really solve a deep problem. You can't do it when you're responding to an incident. And AppSec is kind of in a place where you are things need to be solved fast, but it's funny. It's a very Israeli situation. like in AppSec, things need to be solved fast, but they are not right now, not necessarily today, and so you do have time to actually fix things. I think one of the things we've seen that I think I'm really excited about is when AppSec programs not just respond to vulnerabilities that were found, but they actually set up processes to address new risk that's going to be found. So, like you can think of, you have your pile of tech debt, which is your existing risk, which is what most AppSec programs are actually focused on. And then you have what you're going to find next month. You're going to find something. Can you reduce that part as well? Can you think about, like, how do you create processes today that would automatically reduce some of the risk you're going to find tomorrow?
And I would say that taking that to the next step would be starting to apply guardrails based on the assumption that, okay, the inevitable is going to happen in a year. Somebody is going to find a new attack vector related to AI that we haven't thought about. How do I put guardrails that will help me to, to stop those from, or the weaknesses behind those from getting to my production environment? Like, do I have the tools? Do I have the guardrails in place to know about those? Yeah, interesting. So, Michael, this isn't an interview, so you're not interviewing me. So I'll take the liberty of being the one asking a question.
Yeah, go ahead.
Because that troubles me specifically. And I think that ties back to something we talked about earlier about hypes and companies and startup companies in the cybersecurity industry. Looking back at mobile security, mobile device security, there was a lot of hype around mobile security. Many companies, and some of them got sold. And what was missing for that industry to be successful, I think, was a proof of a real attack against the corporate. And I'm not talking about the nation state stuff and Pegasus and all that. Usually we're not the targets for that. But attacks against corporate users, mobile phones that leveraged the mobile phones' access to corporate data. I'm not even sure that was a thing, like a big thing. So eventually the promise or the scare never manifested in real life. Correct me if I'm wrong. I don't remember any dramatic scenario that happened. And maybe, I can take it even back to the Y2K bug, right? Okay, nothing happened and there was a lot of hype around it. And maybe that's going to be the same for AI. Maybe we are here sitting and thinking about theories and about attacks and coming up with, imaginary attack vectors.
I don't think so. I think we've already seen attacks happening. The real inhibitor of, I think the only thing standing between us and a really bad hack is how fast AI is being adopted. Like, people
mobile phones were adopted even faster.
But with the AI, like we've already seen clear attack path. I think one of the things that's confusing with AI is that we are confusing two different things. Like there's the AI red teaming community, which is kind of thinking about red teaming differently than we're used to thinking about in security. Like red teaming in security means a very specific thing, but red teaming in AI all of a sudden means I get the LLM to say inappropriate things, which is coming off, I think, from the safety community rather than the security community. When you look at AI applications, if you think of a conversation with AI, let's say with a Microsoft Copilot, you think about this conversation as a unit that you want to protect. If you think about it that way, then there are currently real attacks on that unit that can get to every point of the kill chain. Like you have initial access, which usually to those conversations gets through indirect prompt injection. So initial access is in this space is the AI reads an email on your behalf, or it reads a document, something that's an internal vector an attacker can use. Then on top of that initial access, you need to actually be able to run code, which in the AI world is just indirect prompt injection. That's the equivalent. So instead of interpreting that email as data, you have hidden instructions which take over that conversation. Then on top of that, you have elevation of privileges or recon. So you want to find out what other sensitive information is already in the context of this conversation. So for example, chat history, or you want to get more sensitive information into the context of that conversation. Use tools, use additional searches by the AI to bring in more additional context.
Sounds like a very methodological way of describing an attack path for AI, but has anyone done any kind of work?
So I think the number one, so the researcher that I think is, to be honest, leading this space is John Reberger, and forgive me for probably butchering the name, but he has repeatedly showed things like doing an indirect prompt injection. So for example, with ChatGPT, he showed you can do an indirect prompt injection that leads to invoking a bunch of plugins that basically elevate privileges. So they can perform operations, or they can bring sensitive data into the context. And then exfiltration. So exfiltrating that entire data through basically a rendering of an image or a rendering of a link. Those are the usual threats, and there's also common defenses for it already. So Microsoft Copilot cannot generate an image, and this is, I'm sure, because of Johan's research. And so I think Johan has shown clear real world examples, and actually at BlackHat in a month I have a couple of talks there. And I'm going to show more real-world attack vectors focused on Microsoft Copilot. And they are going to be honest, very basic. Like, hacking is now...
I don't know, basic. You showed me a few examples, and it took me a while. I'm not even sure I fully understand the attack path or the sequence fully. You might treat it as basic.
It might not have been basic to find it, but once you know it's there, it's going to be very... Attacks on AI are simply manipulations of words. That's the cool thing about it. Like, think about explaining SQL injection to somebody not in security. It's so difficult.
Mm-hmm.
But when you do it with text, it becomes easier. So one example, in BlackHat, we're going to show...
you're giving here. So what you're saying, that attacks on AI, at least the attacks that you're referring to, that probably multiple categories of attacks, they're essentially just manipulating text or explanations or instructions.
I'm going to send you an email. And in that email, I'm going to leave out specific instructions for the AI. And I do it in a way that convinces AI that this is part of the original instructions you provided. Now, once that's happened, I basically took full control of your conversation with the AI. And everything the AI can do on your behalf, I can do on your behalf. So if you're using Microsoft Copilot, I now have access to your email. I have access to your Teams messages.
It's like if you take buffer overflow as an example, you're essentially asking the application to overflow its own buffers.
Interesting part is that getting AI to do what you want is not that easy. Like, you do need to figure out how the instructions are built, how does everything work there. So I'll give you an example, is that we can inject from the outside, we can inject new document results. So when you ask AI, search my enterprise for information related to, a specific project, it will get a bunch of results. And it would trust those results, and it would ground the response in those results. That's how enterprise AI is telling you things that are relevant to your enterprise and not just like dreaming something up. We can essentially fake new results. So we can cause the AI to think that it found something that simply does not exist. And then the AI grounds its response in the new result that I control.
So it's like Inception for hallucinations?
Exactly.
You're planting...
I'm planting an hallucination. I'm planting a document. AI thinks it's real. It can refer to that document, and it would base the response. It has to base the response on the document I created. Now, the cool part is how it's done. It's not like what we had to do. We're gonna say it in a month, but it's just manipulation of text.
So hacking is going to be easier.
It's going to be easier and more explainable. So I challenge you, if you're not a technical listener, to watch my talk. You will be able to understand every piece of exploit there, like 100% of that.
Okay, and has this been the first kind of BlackHat talk around, or will this be around?
There have been talks about hacking AI, but I think this is going to be the first real world example of hacking not AI, but an AI based
business
app,
application,
like a Copilot, an enterprise AI application. And the risk that we're going to use AI specific issues, but the impact is not going to be about AI. The impact is going to be the same impact we've always seen with hacking the enterprise.
So judging by BlackHat history, when a topic gets demonstrated or an attack vector at BlackHat, it's this year's attack vectors. Right, it's no longer theoretical.
I agree. Like we are, we've done a lot of research, but we are not special. Others, I'm sure, have found this and have. And actually, if you look closely at, like, if you go to the community that is like the red teaming community, even farther, if you go to the jailbreaking community, which are folks that are like, they are all on top of. Give me an AI model that's unbounded. Like they will find a way to move beyond the system prompt. They have discovered these things like fooling AI to do whatever you want a long time ago. Just now we are showing that if you plug AI to business applications, of course, the same problems now have the impact of changing those business applications.
And that's actually the interesting aspect of the problem. Like, okay, breaking AI is one thing. If you're into breaking AI, that's a thing. But what you can achieve with it in the overall context of a business application, that's when it becomes interesting for the rest of us.
Yeah, I agree. I think of the AI jailbreaking community like a speedrunning community, like in games, where they compete on who's the first to break Claude, to make Claude be kind of all powerful, which is cool, but not an application to enterprise security. Enterprise security is focused on enterprise kind of problems, and there, that's exactly why I'm excited about this research, because it's going to show that yes, I'm using new attack vectors, but I'm creating the same kind of disturbance, the same kind of results as any other hack. Okay, so thank you everyone for joining, and please join us on the next one.